Carol.
Sorry, I thought it was for me.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Bryn Lopez, and I am the manager of Children's Book World in Los Angeles, where we celebrate diversity, knowledge, and enrichment. It is a world where every child sees themselves on our bookshelves and see each other. I am especially excited because I'm here with an author that I really, really love, Carole Lindstrom. Hello, Carole. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? It's so good to be here.
Oh, I'm glad to have you here. Carole is the author of the New York Times bestselling and Caldecott Award-winning picture book, We Are Water Protectors. She is here to talk about her newest picture book, Autumn Peltier, Water Warrior. When I saw that this book was coming out, Carole, I specifically put in a request that we could do something with you because I wanted to bring you to Southern California kids because there's such a history of Indigenous situations with water here in this particular state, and also the history of the indigenous nations that were forced to move out of this state. So there's so much there. I thought these kids would love to be able to hear about this particular story. Real quickly, I just want to mention everybody else. Carole Lindstrom is the author of the New York Times bestselling and Caldecott Award-winning We Are Water Protectors, as well as My Powerful Hair, which is another book that I absolutely love. She is Anishinaabe Métis and is a proud member of the Turtle Mountain Band of Ojibwe Indians. She'll tell you more about that. But I'm going to hand it over to Carole so she can tell you more about this wonderful book.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much for that lovely introduction. And I'm so sorry everybody had to see the behind the scenes, but like you said, kind of neat for them to see what we do before. So I am so honored, really, for your kind words about my work and that you wanted to bring me here to talk about Autumn Peltier today because I love this book. I love Autumn. I just think she's a wonderful person, and I think everybody needs to know about her, and that's really what inspired me to write it. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit, and then read the story to you. Let me just jump right in because I wasted so much of your time. But as you know, I'm the author, so right? I'm the writer. I do the words, and then Bridget George is the illustrator. This is her debut illustrated book with another author. She does have another book she wrote and illustrated herself, but this is her first that she's done with someone else. So that's really exciting. I think she did a beautiful job. So, as you know, and as you heard, I am Anishinaabe, um, which means original people. But to be more specific, I am Ojibwe Métis, and I'm a citizen of the Turtle Mountain Band of Ojibwe, which is one of the 574 federally recognized tribes in here in the U.S. There are over 1,000 tribes that are not federally recognized. But my tribe is one of the 574 federally recognized. And my tribal homelands are in Turtle Mountain or Belcourt, North Dakota. And this is my tribal flag. All tribal nations have their own tribal flags. We are known as the floral beadwork people. So you see on the flag all the beadwork and, well, that would be beadwork, the florals around the perimeter. And we would have used the woodland flowers and those type of things to inspire the beadwork. And then the symbol, our symbol is there up at the top left. And then that's me down at the bottom with my tribal chairman and some of the tribal chair people. I do not live on my tribal homelands, which, as I said, are in North Dakota. I live in the Washington, D.C. area. So, and I didn't like I said, grow up there. My mother did. She grew there up there, but I did not. So, I don't get to meet and see my people very often. They're from the homelands. And so when there's events in the National Mall here, like we're on the Capitol and in DC, I try to go. And that was this picture's from 2019, which was Indigenous Peoples Day. And Indigenous Peoples March, and so a bunch of people came, and my tribal people came, and it was really great to meet them. So, and then over there on the right, you see me with the typewriter, which is clearly dating myself, but words and books and writing and the library and reading and all of that was really important to me from a young age. I loved books. I loved stories. I just got lost in the stacks at the library when I was a kid. It was down the street from my house, the public library, which was just like the best thing ever for a word geek like me. So I would go down there every Saturday and Sunday. and spend pretty much the whole day just taking books off the shelves, whatever would looked interesting, mostly a lot of nonfiction because I was always interested in why the world was the way it was, how things worked, and just all that stuff. So that's kind of what I used to do. And I really thought I would write for adults one day, or I wanted to. I didn't really think that I would or could, but I always wanted to. And it wasn't until I had my son, who's 16 now, that I started writing when he was a baby, and really, reading children's books and seeing all the different genres and things like all the great picture books and stuff out. And that's when I really thought I wanted to write for young people. But these are my tribal homelands. Here you can see North Dakota there. Well, that you see on the bottom map there was this Turtle Mountain reservation there. That's where my tribal homelands are, where it says Belcourt. And then over to the left is the Trenton Indian Service area. My mother was born over there in that area, and she was raised. That's a little satellite reservation of the main reservation. So you see the other dark areas on the map. Those are other tribal nations as well. The Fort Berthold Reservation, Standing Rock Reservation, Spirit Lake, and Sisseton Wahpeton, which is down there at the bottom in North Dakota. But my tribal homelands here are a lot of rolling hills and a lot of water and a lot of blue sky and just really pretty.
Can I ask you a question, Carole?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about, so you were showing in the state lines and then showing the United States, but I wanted you to talk to the kids about how the actual tribal homelands stretch beyond arbitrary state borders or country borders, that
Yeah.
like in the Southwest, nations were both in the United States, what we would now call the United States, and Mexico, and in Canada many of the tribes stretch through and that is their actual. Could you talk a little bit with the kids about that?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that question. Yes, absolutely. Yes. So back, before colonization, really, when Native peoples were all over, we did not recognize borders. No, we didn't see any. That didn't mean anything to us. We just went where the food was, basically. And so that meant, especially for my people who are Buffalo, like we're Buffalo Nation, so we lived on Buffalo. Buffalo was our main source of food, and so we would go, where they were, they, graze, and they go follow the land, weather, like everything. And so wherever they went, we would follow them. So that meant that sometimes they would be in, what is Canada. But that's okay. That's where we went. We just went wherever the food was and where then we would go back, depending on the seasons too, like summer. You could be on a buffalo hunt and you could be hunting, but you couldn't do that in the winter because the buffalo were not doing grazing like that, and you'd want to be protected in the woods. So like we would become more woodland. So then we would go to where the trees, the shelter was. So we didn't, we didn't think about, well, we have to worry about, well, we can't be in North Dakota or South Dakota or Canada because, we just went where protection was and where food was. There was more food, smaller game like rabbit or something in the woodland area that we could also hunt in the winter time that we couldn't get on the prairies when the snow was all over. So mostly, that's how we all survived, right? Is by going with the land. And that's why land is who we are. And it's so important to us because it's what kept us alive. We didn't have grocery stores and we didn't have all these things, and now we went with the land, so, and followed the seasons and so forth. So yeah, that's kind of why we didn't observe any kind of. It just did, and we observed each other's, like we did know other tribes like the Lakota, Dakota, Nakota people were in this area as well. So we all had our hunting areas. We had treaties with each other. There was one called the Corn Treaty between the Ojibwe people and Lakota people, so that we would not infringe upon each other's sort of hunting area. Because we wanted to make sure we all had food. So good question. I could babble on that obviously for days. But some of you know me from this book, We Are Water Protectors. Excuse me. But these are some of the other books that I've written. My Powerful Hair, which, as you had mentioned so kindly, it came out in March of this year. And then these are some of the others that I've written. My very first book was Girls Dance, Boys Fiddle, which was based upon my Métis ancestry, which came out a long time ago. Like 2013 was really my first book, and it took me another 7 years for We Are Water Protectors to come out. So, it's a long process, and people think, it's not an overnight thing, great writing. It's a lot of rejection. It's a lot of, no's and what are you thinking and you'll never make it and blah, blah, blah. But you just persevere because you know that it's something you really feel you need and want to do. So what inspired me to write this book about Autumn, who is this young person on the left. Well, she's now 18, but when she started to be a water warrior, using her voice to speak for the water, she was 8. And when I learned about her through my research for We Are Water Protectors, I thought, wow, what an amazing person that she, I think a lot of times biographies may be about older people, and sometimes young people don't resonate with them or don't think, well, they think I have to wait till I'm older to do those things, but that's not true. You could be a young person. And I mean, Greta Thunberg is another great young person that's using, there's so many young people now, activists, Native young people, Indigenous, from all over, everyone, people all over now that are young, that are using their voices. And so that I thought she needed a book so that people could see the amazing things that she's done. So this is Autumn and her grandma, well, not her grandma, grandmother Josephine, but that's her great aunt. That's Autumn Peltier's great aunt, Grandma Josephine. Everyone in the community lovingly calls her Grandma Josephine. But these are two in our culture, Anishinaabe, which Autumn is, and also her great aunt. Like myself, women are, it's just been part of who are in our culture, that women are the protectors of the water and the men are the protectors of the fire. That doesn't mean that you can't do both if you're a man, not at all. It just seems like it's just been part of who, I don't know, part of innate to who we are. Like for me, I felt the need to write these books because I think I feel the need to speak for the water, and that's partly, so that's why I gravitate to these type of stories. But here's I'm going to teach you a couple Ojibwe words today. But Nibi is water in Ojibwe. So why is Nibi important? Well, we all know why water is important, right? We can't live without water. It's we can live longer without food, than we can without water. So it's very, and living in California, how important water is. And to us, God, it's like people, I think, there's places like I see Lake Mead is drying up and it's like, this isn't normal. This isn't normal. This isn't good. We have to stop this. And so these young people that are using their voices now, I think, are very inspiring. But Autumn and Grandma Josephine are from, as I said, Anishinaabe. They're from Wickwemcong First Nation, which is on Manitoulin Island, in the middle there of Lake Huron, where that red on the left there, the little red thingy, I don't know what you call it, but that is the island there. At the very end is Wickwemcong. So that's where Autumn and Grandma Josephine, or her great aunt, grew up. So as I mentioned, she started out really at 8 years old she watched her great aunt speaking up for the water and using her voice. And also she grew up on Manitoulin Island, which is surrounded by water, and it is the largest freshwater island in the world. Most islands are surrounded by saltwater and the ocean, but this is actually surrounded by, freshwater from the Great Lake. And so she also learned at this age that many people did not have access to safe drinking water. They were having it brought in these containers here. And that water had to last them for however long till they got another shipment. So it could be a week. And that water had to be, used to drink, to wash, to cook, all of those things and so you had to be very careful still about how much you use, because you don't know, or maybe the truck will be delayed. So it's very precious. And Autumn, felt like she wanted to do what great Grandma Josephine is doing. And so, as I said, Grandma Josephine was considered the original water walker, She walked around the entire perimeter of the Great Lakes, not all at once, but from 2003 to 2017. So here you have this elder who's, quite elderly, but she's walking around the water with the Great Lakes with a copper pail of fresh water and her ceremonial staff, so that people would see her and wonder, what was she doing? Why is she walking around? What is this lady doing? So that was her reasoning, so people started to question it, that they might start understanding and that not everyone has access to clean water. So Autumn, when she was 12 years old, she presented a ceremonial copper bowl to the Canadian Prime Minister, and told him she was not happy with the choices he was making, which I thought was very brave of a 12-year-old. But, I think it's amazing because she's not thinking of herself. She's thinking of everyone, all of us, and all of everything that's related to us. The animals, the plants, the trees, right? We're all related. So, and we have to rely on each other to live. So she was at 13. She received the Governor General of Canada Sovereign's Medal for volunteers, and then she was at 14. So in 8th grade, she addressed the United Nations General Assembly. So here she is on the right, addressing this huge room full of leaders from all over the world, telling them that she's not. People need to pay attention to the need for clean water, and that they need to do more to protect it. And this slide, Autumn was nominated for the International Children's Peace Prize in 2017, 18, 19, and 22. So she is, as I said, 19 or 18 now in college. And so I foresee many books about her. She's just a very, definitely a water warrior. But I like to show this photo because just to see that as of November 2021, so just 2 years ago, there were 99 drinking water advisories in Canada for First Nations people. So that means that but water must be brought in like those containers, or their boil water advisories. And some of these communities in the red here on the right have been under these these advisories for over 20 years. So they're still not, having access to clean water. And, same here in the United States, as like we talked about California, but then I know in Arizona, they're dealing with the uranium mines that are left over. And so there's water, the pollution from that is leaching into the water. And so they're having water brought in containers too. So I know I'll try to watch the time because I want to read you the book. But I'm almost done with this part. When she was 14, she was appointed the Chief Water Commissioner for the Anishinaabe Nation, the same position Grandma Josephine held. And so she meets tribal leaders from many, many different nations. And she speaks about Indigenous and water rights. And she's very instrumental in protecting the water in and out of the Great Lakes. So I just thought she's an amazing young person. The world needed a book about her. So let me read you the story. I do want to point out that there is a foreword, a little paragraph at the beginning that Autumn herself provided for the book, which I thought was really nice. I am Nibby. I have a spirit. I have feelings. I remember. For a very long time, all life on earth cared for me, looking 7 generations into the future to make sure I was pure and clean for their children's children. I remember how the Anishinaabe cherished me, loved me, speak for the water, sing for the water, dance for the water. Over time, more people came, diminishing their voices, drowning out their message. Those people didn't care for me, didn't cherish me, didn't love me. As my voice grew quieter, the women who cared for me were forced to get louder. And then I met Grandma Josephine. I remember her touch, the ripple. She walked miles and miles around the Great Lakes, carrying my spirit in her copper pail, so people would see her and see me. The 7th generation is creating a sea of change. It was a soft voice at first, like a ripple, but with practice, it grew louder. When Grandma Josephine journeyed on to the spirit world, Autumn, her great niece, began to use her voice for me. Autumn is the seventh generation. She honors me through ceremony, offering up a sema and prayers for my health and well-being. I know Autumn, and Autumn knows me. Speak for the water, sing for the water, dance for the water. When she saw signs that read stop, water not safe to drink, to wash, to touch, she summoned her courage and confronted the people who made decisions, telling them she was unhappy with their choices, telling them that I am precious, telling them that without me there would be no life, there would be nothing. Her ancestors knew that as the seventh generation, Autumn would one day raise her voice. Though she began in her great aunt's footsteps, Autumn is blazing her own path. For me, speak for the water, sing for the water, dance for the water. For the next 7 generations, for healthy animals and plants, for you, for me. With Grandma Josephine guiding her and the women who came before her, Autumn visited different Indigenous communities. She met leaders from all over the world, speaking out loud and strong. For me, like a ripple in a vast sea, people are beginning to wake up and listen. But I need all of you now to grow the ripple into a tidal wave. Be like Autumn and Grandma Josephine. Leave good footprints for me. Speak for the water. Sing for the water. Dance for the water. What will you do for me? And I will stop sharing now if you like, and I'd be happy to take questions so that I can give you some time to question me.
Okay.
Is that okay? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when we share, you will be able to see you. So
There. Okay. I stopped sharing.
there
Is that
we
good?
are.
Okay, cool. All right. Awesome.
So I wanted to ask you first about to talk to the kids about, because I think a lot of kids around the country, around the world, when they think about Indigenous populations or they're taught about Indigenous populations or Native American populations in particular, that it is historical and it's not contemporary today, living today. And I would love for you to talk to kids about why it's so important that they realize that these are communities that exist today. This is not about cowboys and Indians or past history. These are people who are living in communities today.
Oh, I love it. Great question, and I love it. Okay, so yes, we are everywhere. We're all around you, and we're, as you can see, what's going on, which I love in the whole entertainment with the world, like Res Dogs, and just these movies that like The Killers of the Flower Moon, things that are showing. Not even though those are historical, but you're seeing actors and people today that are native that are doing these things. So we've always been here. We've never gone away. We just were never allowed to have a voice really before. When I was growing up, which was way back in the Stone Age, I was in school. I was so ashamed of who I was, and if I told anybody, they would make so much fun of me, and then you do this kind of thing, like woo, 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 and just horrible, horrible things people would say to me. And so I tried to pretend I hid behind like my father was Swedish. The Lindstrom comes from that. And so I would hide behind my sort of whiteness because I tried to pretend, well, I won't pretend that's not who I am, but it is who I was. So it really was hard for me growing up and just understanding how it affects young people to ignore those things or treat them like that. For me, that's to ignore my identity and to pretend I wasn't who I was, because it was like really against the law for me um, to be who I was. When it wasn't until I was 14 years old that we were allowed to practice our religion or our spirituality. If you did anything that was your, um, spirituality as a Native person, you would be really thrown in jail. It was not allowed. So I grew up during a time when it was wrong, absolutely wrong to be and embrace your nativeness. So we've always been here. It's just we kind of had to hide. We had to sort of go underground to survive. And because we are here, we're everywhere, like I said, and you can see it, and it's beautiful. But we needed to sort of protect ourselves, and that's how we did it. But now we find the world is sort of awakening to the fact that we are here and we are a modern part of the world, and we are creating art, and we're in the work, we're everywhere, we're just part of the whole world. And yeah, and it's good to see the so much literature, and like I say, movies and all these things
Yeah.
coming out that are showing us today living in the present. And even if you're seeing shows that, like I said, are in the past, but you're knowing that these people that are creating them are all native people today. So yeah, great
Yeah.
question.
I had some of that same experience from you because I'm a descendant of Tohono O'odham, the
I
tribe
wonder.
in
Okay.
Arizona. So,
Yep.
but I'm also mixed like you. So
Yes.
I had that same type of experience. Now, some kids want to ask questions about water, and I wanted to bring up when you talked about Grandma Josephine walking around the lakes. I wanted to put into perspective for them that Lake Superior, the biggest lake, but just one of those five lakes, is the size of the state of South Carolina or the country of Austria. It is massive. So, what those walks actually mean, because kids are asking about how you can be protectors, but those steps that they took, though they were hard, they were incredibly powerful to send a message, right?
Absolutely. Think about like, well, now I wrote a book, and so now you know about it, and the world is knowing. Grandma Josephine, just by little steps, by footprints, and then Autumn by using her voice, which is something we all have. Just you don't have to have big tools or big things or do think you have to do. I don't know. All you have to do is be you, and if
Yeah.
you feel the need to use your voice or your feet, for something important like this. It's not selfish, right? None of this stuff is self-centered and it's for all of us, because we can't continue if we don't have water. And I know you guys know that. So yeah, it's a big, big thing to do what she did at her age, especially, being an elder. As a younger person, it would be tough to do that. But as an elder, that's a very big feat. That's a big feat.
Niall, who is in kindergarten, was asking, how does oil hurt water? Which I think also has an aspect of talking about, because you talked about climate change, but companies owning water that we think of as being, we all own it. It's part of but there's actually places where companies own the water, and that's how the water gets destroyed, right?
That makes no sense. I mean, to own water. I mean, as a native people, we've lived in these lands since time immemorial. Right? And so we obviously knew what we were doing, because the planet was still healthy. And the thing that definitely affected the planet's health is things like industrialization, colonization, things like the extraction industry, which is oil. Anytime you dig into the planet, into the earth, you are hurting the planet. Anytime you take something away, you are hurting the planet. So I think in this world, we have such a view of, especially I can speak in the US because I live here and see, there's such a view of taking, and what can you do for me? But there is really very little give back. What can I do for you? And we got to do that. See, that's where the planet is, yes, screaming right now. What can you do for me? Just like this story. What can you do for me? Because that's as Native people in the story, you see, she offers up a sema. And Nasima is tobacco, and it's one of our four medicines, sacred medicines. And that is a giving gift, It's saying, I'm giving you something. So I'm offering you this prayer in my mind, this gift of a sacred medicine for us. But I want to give you something for what you're giving me in return. And in return, I'm not going to take everything you have. going to leave something so that I have something for the next time. And then so other people have it. So I don't hoard it. I give it to, others. So as Native peoples, we think of our elders. When we hunt, it was like, okay, we've got buffalo. Well, we feed the elders first. We feed the children. The elders are taken care of. We don't have to worry about nursing homes, right? And any of the, we take care of our own, and we know how to give back when we do, and we only take what we need. So I do think that that whole thought process is a missing link in society.
So, I think you asked Rowan's question about why you wrote this book, but I think Jackson and some of the other kindergartners, we have kindergartners from Brentwood School and lots of other schools here. How could they be water protectors? Because sometimes it can feel overwhelming, like, oh, I could never do something gigantic like that. So I'm not going to do anything because I can't take that one little step. But what are little things that people could do to help be water protectors?
Well, yes, that's the truth. And you can't think big way in the big picture like that, like because it's overwhelming. Like I think about me when I wrote We Are Water Protectors, that book. I wrote it just thinking I am helpless about calling people's attention to water protectors at Standing Rock, which is was the tribal reservation I showed you at the beginning. Remember, in North Dakota. Well, they were fighting the pipeline, the oil pipeline, and so like, what could I do? Well, I wasn't able to make it to be there and use my voice. So living so far away, well, I thought I'll write a story. Well, I did never have really anything published at that time, and nobody knew who I was. But I wrote that book going, well, I guess maybe I could use my voice. And look what happened. That was just one person doing one little thing, which was a little thing at the time. I just wrote words on a page, and I found someone that decided this will publish this. So you can use your voice to speak up, to bring people's awareness to this, to your friends or people that don't that are not mindful of the preciousness of water, that think it's that pollute the water. That also knowing where your water comes from is really important.
Hmm.
If you like your lake reservoir, wherever, we all the water's connected, like everybody and all of us are. So all these lakes, all this ocean, that all feeds into each other in tributaries and whatnot. So everything being connected like that, knowing how does that get to you, and what affects that, things like farming and agriculture runoff is a huge problem in some places, because then it causes all these chemicals to be in the water, things like that, where, and we don't need those chemicals.
Yeah.
There's other things we can do to get food. We don't need to rely on that. And so knowing, just kind of knowing these things is a very good first step, is understanding what causes the pollution and what it causes, and then why is that. And then I think when children think, well, what do I want to do when I get bigger? Well, there's a million things that can help these situations
Yeah.
right now that the big people messed up, and will never do again.
One fun thing I think a lot of kids could do is go out in your own community and go like Grandma Josephine and Autumn
Yeah.
do and walk around your own body of water.
Yes.
Maybe there's a pond, maybe there's a lagoon or something, or a stream or river, and walk along with your parents, and maybe you can clean up. Maybe you can make it so that, right?
Yep. And also that by just walking around it, like you're saying, and looking at it and thinking about it, even you think about those three phrases, dance for the water, sing for the water, speak for the water. Just walking around it like that makes you think about a different sort of relationship, I think, with water. That it's, if you start to open up your mind to the importance of water and where we all come from and how important it is to us to live and everything to rely on water. I think we take it for granted a lot. And if you really understand the preciousness of it and what could happen if we didn't have it, and how long would this planet last? That's the problem with this. We can't find life on other planets, right? There's no water.
Yeah.
That says
What's
everything.
what is the significance of the copper pail?
Oh, copper is a very sacred material to Native people, to us, to Anishinaabe, Ojibwe. So having it's as it being it's sacred to put the water also in it because water is sacred. We think of water as Native people. It has memory. It does remember who we are because think of all your ancestors who came before you. They all touched that same water. It's all part of all of our ancestors from a time immemorial. Since we've been part of our hands are in that water. Water doesn't go anywhere. It's all connected. So yeah, the copper pails is sacred and the water being sacred that they need to be together.
It's one thing that I know within Native American populations, within my own family as well, is the importance of honoring your elders and respecting your elders and your ancestors. But talk about maybe little kids having a conversation with their grandparents or with their aunts or their uncles about things that they might be curious about, because that could help them understand what has happened, what has changed, and what
Oh,
they're
for sure.
right.
Yeah, for sure, because they're like living libraries, really. They really are, or living encyclopedias. They know so much about in living history books. There's so many, they're just time capsules, really, our elders. So, and also, they have a different mind, vision of the world, a mindset, a way of looking, I think. But they didn't have all these conveniences and, well, I don't know, conveniences or inconveniences we have today. And so maybe, it's just interesting to hear what their perspective is on that. Do they think these are all good things? And how has that changed? And what is that? Have we lost connections? And if we've lost connections to each other, we've lost connections to the planet for sure, right? Because that's why it's neglected.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that's a really good thing to do, I think, to use your elders because they it keeps them young, in a different way to see the world through your eyes because you teach them new things too. They may have a old way of looking at things that they didn't realize and you see the world in your ways now which they didn't see which you can enlighten them. That's also a brilliant thing. Yeah.
Yeah, dialogues and conversations. I'm
Hmm.
so inspired by everything that you have done, Carol. This has been like, so thank you for sharing so much of this with us. I have two quick questions, which I think kids always love to be able to hear. Of course, they want to know how you're inspired, but I always love to ask authors, do you have to have certain foods or music or settings when you're actually writing your books? Do you have certain things that you do when you're writing to set your mood?
Yeah, so good question. Well, I can't really listen to music unless it's like just instrumental type of stuff or maybe piano because it's too distracting for me.
Hmm.
I believe that I have, well, although I'm older and I've never been diagnosed, well, I guess I have, but I'm sure I do have ADHD to some degree. So sometimes I'll start singing and I'll be dancing. I'm like, okay, Carol, you got to write, you got to focus here. So, yeah, so I can do like piano music but I don't, it doesn't really, I write a lot, by hand. Like for me, to get, like during the day, I will just think of things that come into my head and then I just immediately write it down with pen and paper because for me that's just such a easier way to get things
Hmm.
out. When I do typing and things like that, if I get behind the screen, I start to edit and then I lose all of that thought flow because I'm fixing what I'm writing and that's dumb. You got to just get that stuff out because that stuff is that's the gold. So, but I just do that throughout the day, pretty much just writing things. But no, I like it nice and kind of quiet. And in the mornings, I would probably say is my best if I'm like really into writing some serious book stuff.
Well, I want all kids to know you can come by Children's Book World with your parents at any point in time because we have all of Carol's books. We love, in fact, they're always out on display. But we have a special celebration right now for Native American Heritage Month or Indigenous Peoples Month. But actually, our store is Indigenous people positive all year round, and we've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books by Indigenous authors in chapter books and picture books. We're so happy to have you be part of our community, Carole.
Me too.
We love you, and one of these days we'll get you out here so you can visit kids in person at their schools, right?
Yes,
I think you love
please.
school visits, don't you?
I love school visits. They're my favorite. But that's what I do it for. You guys. Oh, so just being around you and just, I love it. I love it. I love it. See, this is why you got to be around your elders because they really do love the energy you bring. They really do. So it's precious. Yeah. And that's why I like it. Yeah.
That's so great. Are you writing a new book?
Oh gosh, I'm writing a gazillion things. But yeah, right now I'm deep trying into these revisions for a middle grade historical fiction. But I've got several picture books and young adult graphic novels, so lots of things coming.
I can't wait. And kids were asking if you had any chapter books, so that's really exciting that there's a middle grade historical fiction, which kids love historical fiction, so that is super exciting.
You'll like this one because this is different. I've never seen a story about this type of part of history before, so pretty interesting and cool.
Well, I hope everyone is thinking about Grandma Josephine and Autumn Peltier and you, because you're also inspirational in taking the small steps, the actions that you've taken to be able to change the world. We really appreciate it. And thank you so much, Carole. I see
I feel the same about you. So, I couldn't do it without you and your just you have a lot of great. I love your energy and enthusiasm and your support. It's amazing and it means a lot.
Thanks, Carole. Thank you so much. Well, bye, everybody. We're going to see you again
Yes.
soon. And you know what? Think hard about water. And I definitely want to see you guys out there taking walks around water this weekend, if you can do it, or sometime soon. So, bye, everybody. We'll see you again
Bye.
soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Take care.
1 second.